Hello once again, my ghouls and goblins, and welcome to The Fog. I'm your casual crypt keeper, Taylor, and I've got something for you today. The weather's getting nicer out and the sun is poking his head out once again, and I think I've got a vacation coming up. Only trouble is there's not a chance I'll be going to any of these spots. These terrifyingly cursed locations that would make for a terrible vacation. So strap in and get ready to hear the top 5 cursed places paranormal investigators warned you about. Let me know down below which of these you'd book a ticket for and which of these you couldn't get paid to go to. Let's dive on in. Number 5, Isle of the Dolls. I'm not a good Spanish speaker, man. Do you ever get creeped out when you see a baby doll lost somewhere, like on the side of the road or something? You know, a cute little plaything, caked in muck and grime, lost out in the woods? Dolls have been a staple of horror movies and stories for years, and it's easy to see why. There's always a bit of an uncanny valley thing, those lifeless eyes staring at you. Well, imagine if you had to deal with an island of hundreds, if not thousands, of dolls staring at you. Do you think you'd handle that well? South of the center of Mexico City lies the infamous Isla De Las Munecas, or the Island of the Dolls, and I am so sorry to my native Spanish speakers for that butchering. It received the name from the island's inhabitants, which are solely dolls. Legend goes, in the 1950s, the island was the property of one Don Julian Santana Barrera, who used to preach superstitions around and was expelled from the region, living alone on this island. One day, a young girl had drowned and was found washed up in the banks of the island. Santana claims that he heard the girl crying out, "I want my doll," and discovered a washed up doll on the bank as well. He hung the doll up in a tree and claims that since that event, he would find a doll every time he went outside. It became his passion, or obsession, possibly more accurately. Hundreds upon hundreds of dolls line the trees of the island, hanging from just about every inch of available space. Barrera would end up passing away on the island as well, drowning in the same spot that the girl drowned in all those years ago. Locals believe it was a curse from the girl's lingering spirit that still lays dormant on the island. Since then, the island has become a popular tourist spot for paranormal hunters. I mean, look at the place. I didn't even need to tell you a backstory for you to surmise that this is probably a haunted island. It's only accessible via a boat ride, and some guides will actually outright refuse to take you to the Island of the Dolls for fear of cursing. If you do go, I don't know, bring a doll, maybe. I probably couldn't hurt, just don't take any, okay? This is one of those things where you take only pictures, leave only footprints, and maybe leave a haunted doll as well. And if you're looking to go on a vacation without even leaving your home, Top 5 Scary has tons of videos of cursed places, ghost sightings, aliens, cryptids, true crime, basically anything spooky you can think of, we've done a video on it. Click through the archives, stay subscribed, and stay scared, more importantly. Okay, but let's keep going, we got a whole lot more video to go. Number 4, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium has had a real storied history as far as a building goes. It began its life as a hospital, eventually became a nursing home, and now is considered one of the most haunted spots in the United States. Quite the resume. It first opened in Louisville, Kentucky in the year 1910 to treat new incoming tuberculosis patients. That year, a recently built hospital had moved all of their TB patients over to the sanatorium, who had to put up tents to accommodate all of their new guests. The sanitarium housed thousands of patients over the years before the hospital would close to convert into that nursing home in 1961. Now, the estimates may vary because there's not a lot written down, but the estimates say that as many as 64,000 people died inside the sanatorium. 64,000! That is insane! Now, if you've played Red Dead Redemption, I don't need to tell you how bad tuberculosis is. It used to be dubbed the White Plague for its high mortality rate before more advanced treatments became commonplace in curing the illness in the late 40s. So around the time of the sanatorium, it was mostly a death sentence. So is it any surprise that Waverly is said to contain lost, tormented souls unable to move forward? No, not particularly. There's an underground tunnel from the sanatorium to the bottom of the hill, which was used to transport dead patients. The tunnel is supposedly haunted by those who made their last journey through it. One of the most notable haunted spots in the building though is room 502, which is said to contain the ghost of a nurse in uniform. There's a couple different legends corresponding to this. One says that the nurse took her life jumping out of that window, and another who said the nurse took her life by hanging because she was pregnant. And neither one of those is particularly pleasant to think about as the good option. These days, if you're feeling particularly brave, the Sanatorium has opened its doors once again, offering tours for would-be paranormal investigators looking to get a couple beeps on their EVP meters. Just don't say that nobody warned you. Number 3. Epping Forest. Nothing quite like a good haunted forest, is there? Nice tall trees really provoke the imagination when it comes to campfire stories, and Epping Forest is quite the setting for all kinds of creepy spine chillers. The size and density of Epping Forest has made it an infamous spot for all kinds of criminals to conduct and plan their devious crimes. In the early 1700s, it was the hunting grounds of one particularly infamous highwayman, Richard Turpin, who would hid there and commit robberies. Now, since then, more than a dozen bodies have been found, all in disgusting, horrifying conditions since the 1960s. So these spooky woods have become home to all manner of urban legend and hearsay about the crimes that have taken place here. It's developed a real rep for spooky, inexplicable noises and sights, including ghastly apparitions, with some claiming that the ghost of Turpin, the infamous bandit, still resides in the woods. Robbing other ghosts, I guess? God, imagine ghost on ghost crime. We need to do something about that. Ghostbusters, maybe. There's a legend that says that if you drive to Hangman's Hill and park your car in neutral, that your car will be slowly pulled uphill, drawn spiritually to a tree that once hung 3 witches on it, which was later cursed. But I gotta be honest, ignoring the witchy part, that actually sounds kind of fun. Just a little car getting towed uphill as part of a supernatural adventure, I'm on board with that. No doubt something that helps the forest have this scary reputation is its off-putting appearance. The trees have not been cut since the late 1800s, giving them an unusually overgrown, chaotic look. I can definitely relate to not having cut something since the 1800s. I think that's the last time I cut this mop of hair. Number 2. The Queen Mary. We've got a few good haunted woods, an old abandoned hospital, and I think for good measure we should toss in a haunted ship. Does this video not have any haunted houses? Wow, okay, hey, we're breaking new ground. There are few ships in the United States allegedly even half as haunted as the Queen Mary, a decommissioned ship that was converted into a hotel in Long Beach, California. It's stately, lush, and its lower decks are filled to bursting with restless spirits. The ship was christened in the mid-30s by Queen Mary herself, hence the name, and it was retired 3 decades later when it was then converted into a hotel where guests can go and sleep in a stateroom and roleplay that they're crossing the Atlantic in style. But the continental breakfast is far from the only reason anyone goes to check it out, although I have heard it's amazing. Just make sure you get there early, those eggs go fast. There's a variety of hotspots that are said to be congregation points for spirits. The most famous is stateroom B340. A problem before the place was even haunted, actually. In 1948, a passenger, Walter J. Adamson, passed away in the room under unknown conditions. Nothing came of it until 1966. A woman staying in the room reported she was woken up when the bed covers were pulled away and she saw a spectral man standing at the foot of her bed. She didn't assume this was the room service, so she screamed and rang for a steward, but as soon as somebody arrived, the man had vanished. Guests staying at the room claim they hear someone knocking at the door in the middle of the night. The Mary's maids complain that they find water running in B340 when no one's been in it in days. Wet bandits, that's a sign of the wet bandits for sure. People have reported all kinds of ghosts around the pool as well. Some notable ones include a woman in an old wedding gown next to a young boy in a suit, a cloud of steam appearing out of nowhere along with a girl in a blue and white dress who disappears and reappears in an instant. Whew. I'll stay on the land, I think, where all the land ghosts are. At least I know what those ones are. I trust them. And number 1, the Moll Dyer Rock. Do you believe in witches? For the residents of Leonardtown, Maryland, their town's history has been plagued by rumors and accusations surrounding one infamous resident, Moll Dyer, the Witch of Leonardtown. In the early 17th century, illness was ravaging this small community, taking a harsh toll on crops and wildlife, and the difficulty of the winter had crushed most residents' hopes of surviving the season. The town was deeply religious, and the harsh season led the townsfolk to believe a witch was to be blamed instead of just like poles and seasons and stuff, but they didn't really have a lot of books, so witches made a lot more sense. The church had determined that one resident in particular, Moll Dyer, an old widow who lived alone on the edge of town was the witch who was tormenting the villagers. I get it, old crone on the edge of town, bad season, all the crops died. It definitely sounds like she was a witch. But it wasn't long before hurtful hearsay like that turned into a pitchfork-wielding mob who burned down Moll's small hut. Moll ran from the fire into the wilderness, but, being an old woman, collapsed shortly. She grabbed onto a boulder and raised her left hand to the moon and allegedly cursed at the village for what they had done to her. Her body was found frozen with her hand held upwards towards the sky. Since then, the boulder she was found on has been dubbed the Moll Dyer Rock and is actually protected with plexiglass in an attempt to contain whatever curse that she unleashed onto the world. Many supernatural events are reported in the woods around this rock, ranging from shadow people, will-o-wisps, stories of spirits running through the road causing car accidents, thick unnatural fog, and lightning strikes around the rock are all common legends and elements of Moll Dyer's ancient curse on the town of Leonardsville. Now, some fun little trivia for some horror movie fans out there. The story of Moll Dyer served as one of the inspirations for the titular character in the cult classic horror flick Blair Witch Project, about a spooky witch who got isolated in the woods. So if you're ever visiting Maryland and you want to see Moll Dyer's Rock, make sure to bring the video camera, shake it all up a bunch, because if you play your cards right, that's a 3-picture deal and a whole movie franchise. Well, my ghouls and goblins, that's all she wrote. Thanks so much for watching this one with me. Take care, creep on creeping on, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.